Hey there! Let's talk about creating and solving equations. So our first problem is, a frame has a length of 10 and a perimeter of 44. How long is its width? So the information we have is that it's a frame. And normally, if we're looking at a standard frame, it's normally a rectangle. Let's not think about like an oval frame, but a rectangle. So let's draw this out for a better visual. It's a standard rectangle box, and we know its length is 10. So if the length is 10, it doesn't really matter which one's the length or the width, but let's say the length was this one. And since it's a rectangle, if one side is the length, the opposite side is also the length. Now that we know this, we also know that the perimeter is 4. And that's all the information we're given. What are we trying to find? Let's identify that. We're trying to find the width. And if we know a standard rectangle, the perimeter is 2 times the width plus 2 times the length. But let's create a variable. So when we create an equation to solve, we need to identify a variable we're trying to solve for. Let's call this variable W for width. So W would be right here, and the opposite side would be W as well. And the formula for the given information we have would be 2W plus the length, 2 times the length, which is 10, equals the perimeter, which is 44. What this formula is saying, if you've never seen it before, which is highly unlikely, 2W, which is the width, times 2, because there's two sides of the same value. And for the length, the same thing, so we have 10 here for the length, and just multiply that by 2. And the perimeter is what the overall value is. But we're solving for the width, so let's simplify this equation. 2W plus 20 equals 44. So 2W equals 24, which means W equals 12. So the length here is 12, and we can double check that because if we add up all the sides, it should add up to 44. 10 plus 10 plus 12 plus 12 is 20 plus 24, which is indeed 44. Let's move on to the next problem. Your phone plan charges you a $10 service fee, and it costs you $25 a month for unlimited data. Write an equation to model how much you will spend in 2 months. The information we're given here is that this is a one-time fee, not recurring, just a one-time fee, and it costs you $25 a month. We're going to have to write a sort of complicated equation, but let's identify the variable. So what do we not know here? It costs you $25 per month, you have a $10 service fee, and you're trying to find how much you'll spend in 2 months. So if we think about it, the variable should be how many months there are in the equation. We don't know how much there are, so that's a variable because it could vary. So let's write M as the variable. M would be how many months there are. And this would be multiplied by 25 because each month costs $25. So let's write an equation. Y equals $25 times M plus this one-time service fee, which is $10. This would be our equation, and Y would be the overall cost. Let's call it that. And this is our equation. If we wanted to actually solve it, we would substitute in 2 for months, and then we would get 50 plus 10, which is 60. We're now going to move on to a linear system of two equations. And there are three ways you can solve this using algebra. We can use elimination and substitution. So let's do them both, starting with elimination. In elimination, you have to eliminate one of the variables, and we have to eliminate either x or y. So let's pick x. What we have to do is set x equal to each other so we can add them together to eliminate them. So we can multiply this top equation by 2. That way, negative 2x and 2x can eliminate themselves. So negative 2x plus 4y equals negative 8. Now the x's can eliminate themselves, and we can add both of the equations together to solve for y. So if we add both of them together, 5y equals negative 5, and y equals negative 1. So now we can plug back in y into one of the equations, and let's pick this one. 2x plus negative 1 equals 3. 2x equals 4, and x equals 2. So that would be our answer. The solution would be 2, negative 1. Let's do the same thing for the same problem, but now using substitution. What substitution is substituting one of the equations as a variable and substituting it into the other equation. So let's rewrite the second equation into terms of y, which would mean y would be on one side and the rest would be on another side. So let's subtract 2x on both sides to get y equals negative 2x plus 3. Now we can substitute this into the first equation and remember that this is just normal, it's not multiplied by 2 anymore, so if we plug it in, it would be negative x plus 2, and since this part is y, that would be the part we're plugging in for as y. So 2y would be 2 parentheses multiplied by the new y, which is negative 2x plus 3, and it's equal to negative 4. We can simplify this and distribute the 2 to get negative x plus negative 4x plus 6 equals negative 4, and negative 5x equals negative 10, and x equals 2. And now we can substitute in x equals 2 into, let's say, the second equation, and we would get 2 times 2 plus 3 plus y, equals 3. Y equals 3 minus 4, which is negative 1. So we get the same answer. It's up to you to prefer which way you like better. I personally like substitution. Let's now try graphing this for a different method to solve an equation. The third and final way to solve equations is to graph them and find the intersection of those two equations. So let's make a little table chart so we can see the points to graph them. Let's start with the first one. If, let's say, x is 1, then negative 1 plus 2y equals negative 4, 2y equals negative 3, and y equals negative 3 over 2. So 1, negative 3 over 2. Let's get 0 too. So 0 plus 2y equals negative 4, and you can pretty much see that y equals negative 2. Negative 1, and this will be our last point. 1 plus 2y equals negative 4. 2y equals negative 5. Y equals negative 5 over 2. Let's graph this using a 1 per square. So 1n should be right here. Alright, next point, negative 2. And this point would be right here. Make a basic shape of so that'd be our first one. Let's graph the second one in orange. Let's do the same points, 1, and you don't have to, but I'm just doing it. So, for 1, 2 times 1 plus y equals 3. And y equals 3 minus 2, which is 1. So 1 and 1. Nicer points. And let's do 0. So 0 plus y equals 3. And quite obviously, y equals 3. Lastly, negative 1. So 2 times negative 1 plus 3, plus y, equals 3. Y equals 3 plus 2 is 5. 1 and 1, 0 and 3, and negative 1 and 5. So there it is, both of the graphs, and if you look, they would intersect at around right here. This point would be negative 2, positive 2, and negative 1. So the point here is 2, negative 1, and if you remember from the previous examples, that is exactly what the answer is. Thank you for watching. This is Creating and Solving Equations, and this has been provided to you by SATFreePractice.com.